Good morning out there, traders. It is March 8th, 2024, and welcome to the Apteros Daily Market Insight. Let's dive into our recap. So, yesterday we had an interesting situation where we were seeing a bullish move from our time frame heading up into neutral destination area. This was a trade that we had been looking for even the day before. So now that trade had completed itself, our DMI was really specific around what our expectations were, especially at this red outlined neutral zone. The destination, in and of itself, for our trade was something to monitor for downside inflections or upside inflections. And those were important to us early in the session, especially. The DMI was basically revolving around this neutral area. If we held below it, we were looking for rotations to the downside. If we hold above it, we are looking for more bullishness and more rotations out of it. And you can see essentially what we ended up getting out of the session here, where we had a move up. We ended up going right up into a neutral zone coming into, or a neutral reference, sorry, coming into the open, where we got a shallow pullback into our critical neutrals area, where we got a decent inflection to go along with scenario one, and then it went right up into our first target area. And that was kind of what we were looking for out of the main move from this neutral area. From there, it stabilized for a little while, made another push higher, didn't quite get to our overall stretch target or anything like that, and then really just kind of went sideways for the remainder of the session into the overnight session as well. Holding up at neutral references is kind of what we're seeing right now. So there were a couple of opportunities, like I said, to get on board with scenario one. One of them was here. You could have probably gotten involved at lower inflections here, but definitely here. This one is kind of iffy, so maybe not the perfect setup there, but definitely good inflections from here and good inflections from here, along with scenario one looking to the upside. Now, if you're asking me, well, what is the acceptance picture around this move here? What does that look like? The acceptance picture was very micro. In other words, if you were using rhythm to look for acceptance here, we didn't really have quality acceptance above this particular line in the sand. So that is an issue with this particular inflection. You would have had to have made a compromise for a specific reason, other things that you may be using, other tools telling you that the bulls are around in this particular market. For us in the Nadro framework, we have intraday tools that offer us chances to go along with a move like this. And that was definitely a situation in which we could have used them to get on board with the continual move to the upside. All right, so let's now take a look at what's going on today. Today is a pretty straightforward day in terms of context and narrative because we have a lot of time frames still being generally bullish, and now we have our lower time frames kind of moving up and catching up with that bullishness a little bit more, to where we can now make a pretty binary situation with a quality single line in the sand. So here we are with a single line in the sand for today. Scenario one being a hold up above it, scenario two being a breakdown below it, and the general expectations of both. So with scenario one, if we hold up above, we're looking for a first target into that neutral inflection there, and then a continuation up into here. And that's really kind of the main bulk of what we're expecting out of scenario one. If we get really bullish today, it's possible we could see a stretch target up into that upper neutral zone, and that would really be the end of the road for our targeting expectations around scenario one. Now, if scenario two plays out, we get a hold down below our bullish line in the sand. Continuation down into this first neutral area is the first target. From there, it's an area to watch for decent inflections. If we do get below it, then the expectation is to come down into the 5100 area, and that would be our overall destination to the downside as well. So doesn't get any more straightforward than this whenever it comes to our scenarios for the expectations on the day. If we get some extreme conditions for whatever reason, if it's a really big down move, there is a spot lower we have to watch for the bulls from higher time frames. Somewhere down in here in this 5076 area is a much higher time frame bullish idea. So we're going to be monitoring that area if we get a move that is pretty extreme to the downside. But we're going to be waiting for a pattern of holding in this zone before really getting on board with anything coming out of it for the bulls. And that would really be just something to pay attention to, a general expectation if the market really sells off a decent bit today. But other than that, we have our main expectations covered for the session. Main expectations are pretty straightforward. Here to here is a one expectation. Here to here is another expectation. Stretch target out into that neutral reference there, and a stretch target down into this area here for the downside of things. All right. So that is the overall landscape for our context today. Trade well out there, mind your process, and mind your risk.